start of this whole project, I was going in looking at these collections within Bristol, and one of them was the work of John Lindsay, his book Pro-Slavery Priest. He was a priest in Jamaica who was really into botanical collection and had this series of drawings and paintings of the flora and fauna in Jamaica. So I was looking at some of his illustrations, but also trying to kind of understand who is actually behind the collecting of fauna and flora, which John Lindsay drew. It was most likely to be an enslaved person, so where are their, what are their dreams, what are their histories, what are they excited about, what are their joys, I suppose, within quite horrific existence. Yeah, this character here was inspired by a character I saw in one of John Lindsay's drawings, who is climbing up a tree to collect something. And it's, this character is like a scribble. It's like a nondescript background feature to another drawing of a fruit or a plant, which John Lindsay was more interested in. But my instinct was to hone in on this person in the background. So I just created this female character who possibly was, hiding in plain sight, collecting for herself, collecting for her children, trying to think of this narrative which would have existed for real, but is not documented in any of the research I'm looking at because those stories weren't deemed worthy to be documented. This is a sort of initial drawing of a character called Apheba, who is collecting a raw cassava root and leaf, which is a known abortificant, so induces abortion, basically. So not collecting just for the sake of something to be collected for Kew Gardens or something like that. This is something which is more about a life or death situation. There's real people behind these plants, these vegetables, these flowers. And then, I started to go further, thinking about this idea of the bush and the landscape of Jamaica, and thinking about almost mythical science fiction type figures. This is like an initial design for Datura, the middle character in this installation, who is a kind of deity who's leading enslaved people to an area of rebellion, to this idea of resistance through plant knowledge. So I was really interested in how I could create this sense of folklore and mythology inspired by the plants John Lindsay collected. Almost thinking, John Lindsay becomes a footnote in all of this. In the darkness, can you carry us? Help us resist this. Help us resist this. Can you carry us? Help us resist. In my mind, I see this as a kind of alternative timeline where you're seeing three different characters at three different parts of the island speaking to each other, with the main character in the middle, Datura, acting as a sort of spirit guide to both of these women. Kind of like the idea of the work you're seeing in the main image is bleeding into the floor and connecting almost like a river, and all three narratives are connecting to each other by this kind of river of colour, really, because the idea is that these three characters are in conversation with each other. And then as they kind of bleed onto the floor in this river lake formation, we're seeing perspex, acrylic shapes, which are almost like portals to other narratives happening. Again, this whole idea of an expanded cinema, you're seeing different stories. So they're quite abstract. So there's some mountainous region of Moortown. This idea of pulse, a heartbeat, you'll see that kind of on all four images really, which is connecting kind of the, I suppose the heartbeat, the lives of these three characters. They're almost like, their nickname throughout the whole process has been kind of portals really. Almost like you could step inside and transport yourself to another part of the story on the island. This soundscape's meant to kind of complement the paintings, but also it's part of the same universe. So there's this idea we are drawing attention to each character's kind of interiority, their sort of emotional mindset in a kind of gentle guiding way. We wanted some of the soundscape to be cathartic, to be mindful, to be about sort of this ancestral practice. So all of these moods, this sort of shape, and also in tune with the landscape, I guess. And then speaking to kind of, I guess, a lot of pain, a lot of anger. Maybe that's where the guitar comes in and some of the kind of more gnarly moments. And this idea of resistance and rebellion manifesting itself sonically, I guess. Maroons were made up of escaped enslaved people who made their own communities within the Jamaican bush. They had to protect their communities from the colonial powers at the time, which would have been the British, and they just became very aware of the territory, of the land, the terrain, and how to fight, how to resist. Rosie Ridgway, the amazing designer of these costumes, corsetry is one of their specialities, and me and Rosie really kind of locked into this idea of warrior and fighting and strength. So we were thinking of corsetry as armor, as almost like a sort of protective item of clothing. And we're not really thinking of corsetry in a sort of feminine way. We're almost thinking of a way of flattening everything to create this sort of shield of protecting. I see the installation as this snapshot of almost like an expanded cinema. And the performance itself will be us kind of speaking a bit more into the interiority of each character and thinking about their feelings, the plants they might have used, the plants which helped them for their own specific needs, be it for poisoning, as resistance, to induce abortion, to connect to their ancestors. So the songs and the music we have written speaks to that, and the performance is a chance to kind of engage with that more emotionally. seeds of the duppy pumpkin induced vomiting, and they were used as a antidote to poisonings. So another name for them was antidote cocoon. It was advised by the Planter Society that they keep antidote cocoon on them at all times because there was a constant threat of being poisoned by the enslaved people. So to hear that and read that was so interesting to me because that meant they were resisting all the time. They were trying to poison, trying to kill their masters.
Four chambers split and the small black seeds encased within some 500 ground out of sight. Before they emerge, 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 before they emerge. Can you carry us? Help us resist this. Help us resist this. Oh, can you carry us? Help us resist this. Help us resist this. Oh, can you carry us? Help us resist this. Help us resist this. Oh, Mother Earth, who gives birth, who wears the skies, who nurtures and sustains all, who gives us life. While we live, we depend on you. When we die, we lean on you. You taught us the till knife. You give us law, order, and truth-seeing eye. Save you alone, you would live in fear and strife.
In our research, me and Tanya Auclair, we really sort of delved into the West African connection to enslaved Africans within Jamaica and where they came from. And within that culture, there is quite a lot of benevolence to the land, and in particular a female deity called Asase Yadru, who is a goddess of cultivation, of fertility, of caring for the land.
Earth, when I'm about to die, I lean on you. Earth, while I am alive, I depend on you.
And there is a kind of prayer to her which has that line, all power emanates from the land. And as soon as we read that, me and Tanya were like, yes, oh my gosh, this feels like a kind of summary sentence almost for the whole project, because all of this whole project is about power, and it is the power taken from the land, like who is dominating the land, who is working the land, who is working the land for who, and who profits from the land.